Welcome back to Vietnamese Vixens. Today's story comes from a place a lot of you might recognize, that moment when everything familiar stops working. When the life you built starts feeling like a prison, and you're willing to do anything, go anywhere, just to feel alive again. This one's from Connor, 34 years old, writing to us from Calgary, Canada. He thought a month in Hanoi would clear his head after a divorce. What he found instead was something that would cost him far more than a plane ticket. He thought he'd found himself. But sometimes, when you go looking for who you are, you find out exactly how lost you've been all along. If you've ever felt that pull, that need to escape everything and start over somewhere, nobody knows your name, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. And if this story hits close to home, hit that like button and subscribe, because Connor's about to learn that running away doesn't mean you leave yourself behind. I need to tell you something, and I'm not proud of it, but maybe that's the point of writing this down. Maybe admitting it makes it real enough that I can finally start dealing with what I did to myself. My name's Connor. I'm 34. I live in Calgary, Alberta, and until 8 months ago, I thought I had my life figured out. Good job in oil and gas consulting, decent condo and Beltline, a wife who seemed happy enough. Then she wasn't. Then she was gone. And then I was sitting in that condo on a February night, minus 30 outside, looking at the same four walls I'd been staring at for 3 years. Realizing I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt anything at all. The divorce wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no infidelity. Well, none that I knew about. Just this slow, suffocating realization between two people that they'd become roommates who resented each other. Sarah wanted kids. I kept saying later, after the next project, after we saved more, after the market stabilized. She got tired of after. I got tired of being the villain in her story. We split everything down the middle. Lawyers kept it civil, and suddenly I was alone in a half-empty apartment with furniture we'd bought together and a life that felt like it belonged to someone else. The guys at work didn't help. They meant well, I think, but their advice was all the same. Hit the gym, get on the apps, bang some randoms, move on. But Calgary dating in your mid-30s when you've been married for 6 years? It's brutal. Every woman I matched with had either just gotten out of something messy or had a list of requirements that read like a job posting. I'd sit at those brewery dates in Inglewood, nursing some $15 IPA, listening to her talk about her ex or her career, or why she needed someone who was emotionally available and financially stable and ready for commitment. And I'd feel myself disappearing into the background noise. I was lonely. Not just alone lonely in that deep, chemical way that makes you feel like you're watching your own life happen to someone else. I'd come home from work, heat up something frozen, and fall into YouTube. That's where it started. The algorithm knows you better than you know yourself. One night, I watched some guy's video about quitting his corporate job and moving to Chiang Mai. Then another about teaching English in Vietnam. Then another about this expat in Da Nang who was living on $1,200 a month and dating a woman half his age who apparently worshipped him. I told myself I was just curious, just researching, just seeing what else was out there. But the videos kept coming, and I kept watching, and somewhere around 3 in the morning, I started seeing the same pattern. These guys, normal guys, average guys who looked like me, they'd show up in Southeast Asia and suddenly they were interesting. Suddenly they had options. Suddenly women who were beautiful and young and attentive were choosing them, pursuing them, making them feel like men again. The comment section was worse, or better, depending on how you look at it. Hundreds of dudes confirming the same thing. Best decision I ever made. Western women don't appreciate good men anymore. The cost of living is nothing, and the quality of life is everything. I knew it was cope. I knew half of it was probably bullshit. But I also knew I was miserable, and they seemed happy, and that was enough. I booked the ticket on a Sunday, direct to Hanoi, 1 month, refundable return just in case. I told my boss I needed a mental health break, told my parents I was doing some traveling, told myself I was just going to clear my head, experience something different, maybe get some perspective. I wasn't running away, I was exploring. There's a difference, right? The flight was 14 hours with a layover in Vancouver. I barely slept, just sat there with my noise-canceling headphones on, reading blog posts about Hanoi, watching more videos, getting myself psyched up for what I'd convinced myself was going to be this transformative experience. I'd rented a serviced apartment in Teho, the expat district, for $800 a month. The photos looked clean, modern, close to the lake. I'd messaged a few guys in expat Facebook groups, and they'd all said the same thing. You're going to love it. It's everything you've heard, and more. Just get here and you'll see. When I landed at Hanoi Airport, it was like stepping into a wet blanket. March in Hanoi is hot and humid in a way Calgary never prepares you for. The air sticks to you, smells like exhaust and street food, and something vaguely floral I couldn't identify. I grabbed a taxi, some beat-up sedan with no seatbelts in the back, and tried not to panic as the driver merged into traffic that had absolutely no rules. Motorbikes everywhere. Families of 4 on a single scooter. People carrying refrigerators, chickens, entire wardrobes balanced on the back. I'd never seen anything like it. The city hit me all at once. Narrow streets packed with people. Buildings stacked on top of each other. Laundry hanging from every balcony. Shop fronts open to the street, selling everything from faux to knockoff North Face jackets. The noise was constant horns, engines, street vendors yelling, music blaring from cafes. It was chaotic and overwhelming, and completely alive in a way Calgary never was. I felt my heart racing, but not from anxiety, from something else. Anticipation, maybe. Possibility. My apartment was on the 5th floor of a narrow building with no elevator. The stairwell smelled like fish sauce and concrete, but when I opened the door, it was exactly like the photos. Clean, white walls, a decent bed, air conditioning that worked, a little balcony overlooking the street. I dropped my bags, cracked open a Tiger beer I'd bought from the convenience store downstairs, and stood on that balcony watching the chaos below. I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. Like I'd finally exhaled. That first week was a blur. I wandered the old quarter, got lost in the maze of streets that all looked the same, ate pho for breakfast because I didn't know what else to order, drank Bia Hoi on plastic stools with locals who didn't speak English but kept refilling my glass. Everything was cheap. Shockingly cheap. A full meal for $2. A beer for 50 cents. I could live here for nothing and still have money left over. The thought crept in slowly. What if I didn't go back? But the real shift happened at a rooftop bar in Tejo. I'd seen it mentioned in the Facebook groups apparently where all the expats hung out. I showed up around 8, nervous, feeling like the new kid at school. The place was packed. Mostly Western guys, mostly my age or older, all of them tanned and relaxed and laughing too loud. And with them, Vietnamese women. Young, beautiful, dressed like they were going to a club. They draped themselves over these guys, laughing at their jokes, touching their arms, looking at them like they were the most fascinating people in the world. I ordered a whiskey and stood at the bar, watching. One guy, Australian by the accent, was holding court with 3 girls who couldn't have been older than 25. He was maybe 50. Balding soft, around the middle. Back home, he'd be invisible. Here, he was the center of attention. Another guy, American, was dancing with a girl who kept running her fingers through his hair while he grinned like he'd won the lottery. I felt something twist in my chest. Not judgment. Envy. A guy next to me noticed me staring. British, maybe 40. Wearing a linen shirt like he'd been here long enough to commit to the expat aesthetic. He smiled, extended his hand. First timer? I laughed, shook his hand. That obvious? Mate, you got that look. Like you just walked into a dream and you're waiting to wake up. He ordered us both another round. How long you here for? Month. Maybe longer. Just seeing how it goes. He nodded like I'd said something profound. Best decision you'll ever make. I've been here 2 years. Can't imagine going back. The women, the cost of living, the freedom. It's everything they tell you and more. He gestured around the bar. These guys, most of them were just like you. Showed up broken, lost, whatever. Now look at them. I looked. They seemed happy. Genuinely, effortlessly happy. Like they'd found some cheat code the rest of us missed. You'll see, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. Give it a week. You won't want to leave. I didn't believe him. Not entirely. But I wanted to. God, I wanted to. Because standing in that bar, watching those men be desired, be chosen, be important, I felt something I hadn't felt since before Sarah left. I felt like maybe I mattered. Like maybe I could be wanted again. Like maybe this place could give me back the version of myself I'd lost somewhere in that freezing, lonely condo back home. I finished my drink, walked home through the warm night, past street vendors grilling meat on tiny charcoal stoves, past couples on motorbikes, past the lake where old men were doing Tai Chi under the streetlights. And I thought, what if this is it? What if this is where I'm supposed to be? I extended my apartment lease to 3 months that night, sent the email before I could talk myself out of it, told myself I was just keeping my options open, just seeing what happened. just giving myself permission to explore. I didn't know it yet, but I'd already made the decision. The trap was set. I just hadn't felt it close yet. I met Lynn on a Tuesday afternoon at a coffee shop in Tahoe, one of those trendy specialty places that could have been in Brooklyn or Melbourne. All exposed brick and Edison bulbs and single-origin pour-overs that cost more than a full meal down the street. I'd been in Hanoi for 3 weeks by then, and I was starting to fall into a rhythm. Morning coffee at a street cart, work calls with Calgary clients from my apartment, afternoons wandering the city, evenings at the expat bars. I was sleeping better, drinking more, sure, but feeling less empty. The loneliness was still there, but it had company now. Other guys who got it, other guys who'd escaped. But I hadn't met anyone. Not really. The girls at the bars were friendly enough, but there was something transactional about it that made me uncomfortable. They'd smile, ask where I was from, touch my arm, and within 10 minutes they'd suggest going somewhere else, just the two of us, and I'd feel myself pulling back. I didn't come here for that. I came here to feel human again, not to rent someone's attention for the night. So when I saw her sitting by the window, laptop open, wearing glasses and a simple white t-shirt, earbuds in, completely absorbed in whatever she was working on, she looked different. She looked real, like someone who had a life that didn't revolve around foreign men with money. I ordered my coffee and sat 2 tables away, trying not to stare but absolutely staring. She was beautiful in this understated way, no makeup that I could see, hair pulled back in a ponytail, and when she frowned at her screen and bit her bottom lip, something in my chest tightened. I watched her for probably 20 minutes like a creep, trying to work up the courage to say something, anything, when she looked up and caught me looking. I expected her to look away, or roll her eyes, or give me that withering expression women have perfected for unwanted male attention. Instead, she smiled. Not a big smile, just this small, amused quirk of her lips. Then she went back to her laptop. That smile gave me just enough confidence to be an idiot. I stood up, walked over, and before I could overthink it, I said, "Hey, sorry, I know this is random, but do you know if they have Wi-Fi here? Mine's being weird." Smooth, right? The Wi-Fi password was literally on a chalkboard behind the counter. She looked up, pulled out one earbud, and I saw her trying not to laugh. "The password is on the board, behind you." "Oh." "Right. Yeah, I felt my face getting hot. I'm just gonna go crawl into a hole now." And then she did laugh, a real laugh, not polite or performative. "You could sit down instead, if you want." I sat down so fast I almost knocked over her coffee. Her name was Lynn. She was 28, worked in digital marketing for a local startup, grew up in Hanoi but spent 2 years studying in Australia, which explained the perfect English. She liked indie music, spent too much money on coffee, and was working on a presentation for a client that was due in 2 hours, and she was absolutely going to be late for, because she kept getting distracted. We talked for 3 hours. The presentation never got finished. She missed her deadline and didn't seem to care. She asked me why I came to Vietnam, and I gave her the sanitized version. Needed a break, wanted to travel, heard great things about Hanoi. She nodded like she'd heard it before but didn't judge. Asked me what I thought so far. I told her it was overwhelming and exciting, and completely different from Calgary, and I couldn't decide if I loved it or if I was just romanticizing being anywhere that wasn't home. "That's honest," she said. "Most expat guys tell me it's paradise and they're never leaving. Then they leave in 6 months. You meet a lot of expat guys." She shrugged. "It's a small community. Everyone ends up at the same bars, same coffee shops. Most of them are—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Nice enough. But they're looking for something specific, and I'm not it." I asked what she meant, and she gave me this knowing look, like she was deciding whether to be polite or honest. She chose honest. They want the fantasy. The beautiful local girl who's impressed by everything they do, who thinks they're special because they're foreign, who'll cook and clean and make them feel like big men, without asking for anything complicated in return. I went on dates with a few when I was younger. Before I figured out they didn't actually see me, they saw an accessory. I felt something shift in how I'd been looking at this whole city, this whole experience. That's bleak. It is what it is. She stirred her coffee, looking out the window. "But you seem different. You actually asked me about my work. Most guys just want to know if I have a boyfriend and how much I like foreign men." "Jesus. Yeah." She smiled again, softer this time. "So thank you for being weird about the Wi-Fi instead." We exchanged numbers. She had to run to salvage what she could of her workday. I sat there for another hour, replaying the conversation, feeling something I hadn't felt in so long, I'd almost forgotten what it was called. Hope. We met up again 2 days later. Then, 3 days after that. Then it just became a regular thing. She'd finish work and message me, ask if I wanted to grab dinner, and we'd end up at some tiny family-run place in the old quarter, where she'd order for both of us and teach me how to say things in Vietnamese that I'd immediately mispronounce. She'd laugh, correct me, make me try again. I felt like a kid, fumbling and eager and completely out of my depth. But she never made me feel stupid. She made me feel like I was actually learning something, becoming someone less foreign to this place. We'd walk around Hoan Kiem Lake at night, when it was cooler and the lights reflected off the water and street performers played guitar for tourists. She told me about growing up here, about how the city had changed, about her family who lived in a small apartment near Long Bien Bridge. Her dad used to work in construction until his back gave out. Her mom sold fruit at the market. Her younger brother, Min, was studying engineering at university and was apparently some kind of genius but couldn't afford proper textbooks. I told her about Sarah, about the divorce, about feeling like I'd spent my 30s building a life that looked good on paper but felt empty in practice. She listened without trying to fix it, without offering platitudes, just listened. When I finished, she said, "It's brave to admit something isn't working and walk away. Doesn't feel brave, feels like I failed. Maybe both things are true." I kissed her that night. We were sitting on a bench by the lake, and she was mid-sentence about something, and I just leaned over and kissed her. She froze for half a second, then kissed me back, her hand finding the back of my neck, and when we pulled apart, she was smiling that small smile again. "Took you long enough," she said. After that, we were inseparable. She'd come over to my apartment after work, and we'd cook together well. She'd cook, and I'd chop vegetables poorly while she corrected my technique. We'd watch movies on my laptop, her head on my shoulder, her explaining cultural references I didn't understand. We'd talk until 2 in the morning about everything and nothing. She refused to let me pay for everything. We'd argue about the bill, and she'd insist on splitting it, or she'd pay the whole thing and tell me I could get the next one. It felt equal. It felt real. I extended my stay again. 1 month became 3. I told my boss I was consulting remotely now, that I'd found a rhythm that worked. He didn't love it, but I was still delivering, so he didn't push. My parents asked when I was coming home. I said soon, just not yet, I was figuring some things out. Sarah texted once to ask if I was okay. I said I was better than I'd been in years. She left it on read. Lynn started staying over most nights. She'd bring a change of clothes, leave a toothbrush in my bathroom, and it felt like we were building something. I started imagining what it would look like to stay permanently. I could consult remotely full-time. Rent was cheap. Quality of life was better. And I had her. For the first time since the divorce, I could see a future that didn't feel like just going through the motions. Then one night, about 2 months in, everything shifted. We were lying in bed, her back against my chest, my arm around her waist. She was quiet, which was unusual. Lynn always had something to say. I asked if she was okay. She nodded, but I felt her tense up. "You can talk to me," I said. "Whatever it is." She was quiet for a long time. Then, so softly I almost didn't hear it, "My dad's in the hospital." I sat up, turned her toward me. "What? What happened? Why didn't you tell me?" She looked away, embarrassed. "It's his back again. He needs surgery, but it's expensive. We don't have insurance that covers it. My mom's trying to save money, but," her voice cracked, "I don't know what to do." My heart broke for her. "How much?" "Too much. Like 40 million dong." She said it like it was an impossible number. I did the math in my head. 40 million dong was about 2,200 Canadian. Less than my monthly rent back home. "Lynn, I can help. Let me help." She shook her head immediately. No, I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm offering. Please. Let me do this." She looked at me with these wide, wet eyes, and I saw her pride wrestling with desperation. "Connor, that's so much money. It's not to me. And even if it was, I'd still want to help. You've made me happier in 2 months than I've been in years. Let me do this, please." She started crying. Not loud, just these quiet tears that she tried to wipe away. I pulled her into my chest and held her while she shook, and I felt like a hero, like I was finally doing something that mattered. Like I was the man I'd always wanted to be but never had the chance to prove. She thanked me over and over. I transferred the money the next day. Her dad got the surgery the following week. She sent me a photo of him in the hospital bed, smiling, despite the pain, giving a thumbs up to the camera. She told me he was grateful, that her whole family was grateful, that I'd saved him. I felt invincible. Looking back now, that was the moment. That was when the dynamic changed. When I went from boyfriend to provider. When our relationship became about what I could do for her instead of who we were together. But I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it, because helping her made me feel valuable in a way nothing else had. I wasn't just Connor, the divorced guy running from his problems. I was Connor, the man who saved her father. The man who could fix things. 2 weeks later, her brother needed money for textbooks. $300. I sent it without hesitation. Then her mom's market stall needed repairs. $500. Then Lynn's motorbike broke down, and she needed a new one because taxis were eating her salary. $1,000. Every time, she'd cry and thank me and tell me she'd pay me back, and every time, I'd tell her not to worry about it, that I was happy to help, that this is what people do when they care about each other. The other expats started noticing. At the rooftop bar one night, the British guy who'd welcomed me that first week pulled me aside. "Mate, be careful," he said quietly. "I've seen this before." "Seen what?" "The family emergencies, the sick relatives, the broken motorbikes. It's a pattern." I felt my jaw tighten. "Lynn's not like that. Her dad was actually sick. I saw the hospital photos." He raised his hands. "I'm not saying she's scamming you. I'm saying be smart. Don't let yourself get bled dry because you want to be the hero." I walked away. Didn't talk to him the rest of the night. Told Lynn about it later, and she got quiet, hurt. Said people always assumed the worst about Vietnamese women dating foreigners. That we couldn't just be two people who cared about each other. That there always had to be some ulterior motive. I held her and told her I didn't believe that I knew what we had was real. And I meant it. I really did. Because the alternative, that I was being used, that I was just another lonely foreign guy getting played, was too humiliating to consider. So I didn't. I just kept sending money and telling myself this was love. The unraveling didn't happen all at once. That's the thing nobody tells you about getting played. It's not like a Band-Aid you rip off. It's slow. It's 1,000 tiny cuts that you rationalize until you can't anymore. Until one day you're standing in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back because he's become exactly the kind of desperate, delusional fool you swore you'd never be. It started with her availability, or lack of it. Lynn went from staying over 5 nights a week to maybe 2. She was busy with work, she said. Big project, demanding clients. I understood, I was supportive, told her to focus, that I'd be here when she had time. But then the text started getting shorter. Less detail. More gaps between responses. I'd message her in the morning and wouldn't hear back until night. "Sorry, baby. Crazy day." Followed by a heart emoji, like that made up for 8 hours of silence. I told myself it was normal. People get busy. Relationships have rhythms. We'd been in this intense honeymoon phase for months. Of course, it would level out eventually. That's what mature relationships do. They settle. I was being needy. I needed to give her space. But then there was the phone. Her phone was always buzzing, always face down on the table, always in her hand, her thumbs moving fast across the screen, her expression unreadable. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd say work, or her mom, or her friend Han, who was having boy problems. Reasonable answers. Normal answers. So why did my stomach drop every time I heard that notification sound? One night, I asked if everything was okay between us. We were in my apartment, eating takeout, and she was barely touching her food, just scrolling through her phone with this distant look on her face. She looked up, surprised. "Of course. Why?" "I don't know. You seem distracted lately. Like you're somewhere else." She put the phone down, reached across the table for my hand. "I'm sorry. Work's been insane. But we're good, I promise." She smiled, squeezed my fingers. "Are you okay? You seem stressed." And just like that, she flipped it. Made it about my insecurity instead of her distance. I apologized. Said I was probably just overthinking things. She kissed me and told me she loved me, and I let that be enough because I needed it to be enough. The money requests got more frequent. Her aunt needed help with medical bills. Her brother's tuition was due. Her mom's market stall got robbed, and she lost a week's inventory. Every time, Lynn would cry. Every time, she'd say she felt terrible asking. Every time, I'd tell her it was fine, that I wanted to help, that this was what partners do for each other. But the amounts were getting bigger. 2,000 here, 3,000 there. I'd sent her over 15,000 Canadian dollars in 4 months. I knew because I'd finally checked my bank account and felt my stomach drop. That was my emergency fund. That was the money I'd saved from selling my half of the condo. That was supposed to be my safety net for when I figured out what came next. I brought it up once, gently, told her I was happy to help, but I needed to be more careful with money, that I was burning through savings faster than I'd planned. She went quiet, got that hurt look on her face, said she understood, that she never should have asked, that she felt like a burden. Then she started crying and apologizing and saying she'd figure it out on her own. She didn't want to be a problem for me. Of course I backtracked. Of course I told her she wasn't a burden, that I didn't mean it like that I was just stressed about work stuff and taking it out on her. Of course I sent the money she needed, because the alternative was watching her pull away, and I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle losing the one good thing I'd found in this city. The expats at the bar stopped being subtle. One night, this Australian guy named Dave, who I'd gotten friendly with, sat down next to me and just said it straight. "Mate, you're getting taken for a ride." I felt my chest tighten. "You don't know what you're talking about. I've been here 5 years. I've seen this exact story play out a dozen times. Family emergencies that never end. A girlfriend who's always busy but always needs money. You think you're special, that she's different, that what you have is real. And maybe some of it is. But the money part? That's the script, brother. Lynn's not like that. You don't know her." Dave sighed, took a pull from his beer. "How much have you sent her?" I didn't answer. "More than 10 grand? I looked away. "Jesus, Connor. Wake up. She's playing you. They all do. It's not personal. It's survival. You're a foreign guy with money. That makes you an ATM with feelings." I stood up, threw some cash on the bar. "Go fuck yourself, Dave." I stormed out, my hands shaking, my head spinning. I wanted to call Lynn, to hear her voice, to have her tell me that Dave was wrong, that we were real, that I wasn't just another mark. But she didn't answer. Texted back an hour later saying she was asleep, she'd call me tomorrow. She didn't call. The breaking point came on a random Thursday afternoon. I'd finished a client call early and decided to surprise Lynn at her apartment. She'd always been vague about where exactly she lived. Said it was embarrassing, too small, in a rough neighborhood. But she'd mentioned the street once, and I'd found it on Google Maps. I grabbed some flowers from a vendor, hopped on a grab bike, and headed over. The neighborhood wasn't rough. It was nice. Really nice. Tree-lined streets, newer buildings, cafes with outdoor seating. Her building had a security guard and a clean lobby. I felt the first prickle of unease but pushed it down. Maybe she'd been embarrassed for different reasons. Maybe her family helped her with rent. Maybe I was being paranoid. I found her unit number on the directory, 4th floor. The elevator was out, so I took the stairs, rehearsing what I'd say when she opened the door. "Surprise, I wanted to see you. I brought flowers. Am I being too much?" I knocked, waited, knocked again. The door opened, but it wasn't Lynn. It was a guy. Western, maybe 40, wearing gym shorts and a tank top, looking annoyed. "Yeah?" My brain stuttered. "Oh, sorry, I'm looking for Lynn. I must have the wrong. Lynn's not here." He started to close the door. "Wait, she lives here though, right? Apartment 412? He gave me this look. Tired, almost pitying. "She stays here sometimes. She's not here now." The floor felt like it dropped out from under me. "Stays here? Who are you?" "I'm her boyfriend. Who the fuck are you?" I couldn't breathe. The flowers hung limp in my hand. We've been together for 4 months." I thought. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, dude, seriously? You're another one?" He shook his head. "She's good. I'll give her that. Look, I don't know what she told you, but we've been together for over a year. She lives here, with me. Whatever you think is happening between you two, it's not what you think." I wanted to call him a liar. Wanted to push past him and see for myself. But I saw his toothbrush in the holder by the bathroom. Saw her jacket hanging on a hook. Saw a pair of her shoes by the door that I recognized because I'd been with her when she bought them. She said she lived with her family, I heard myself say, near Long Bien Bridge. Her family's in Haiphong, 2 hours away. Jesus, man, I'm sorry. This is awkward as hell, but you should probably go. He closed the door. I stood there in the hallway, staring at the peeling paint on the wall, my ears ringing. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough that a neighbor came out and asked if I was okay in broken English. I said I was fine. I wasn't fine. I called Lynn 17 times. She didn't answer. Finally texted, "We need to talk, now." She called an hour later. Her voice was flat. Careful. "I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been living with another guy this whole time? That everything you told me was a lie?" Silence. "Connor, it's complicated." "It's really fucking not, Lynn. Either you were with me or you weren't. Either you lied to me or you didn't." More silence. "Then, what did you think this was? You're here on a tourist visa. You were always going to leave. I have a life here. I can't just put everything on hold because some foreign guy shows up and wants to play house for a few months." The words hit like a physical blow. "Some foreign guy? I helped your family. I sent you thousands of dollars. Your dad's surgery. My dad's fine. He didn't need surgery. I needed money. You had money. It's not complicated." I felt something crack inside my chest. So it was all fake. Everything. The coffee shop, the walks, the cooking together, you were just running a con. It wasn't all fake. Her voice got quieter. Some of it was nice. "You're a sweet guy, Connor. But you're not the first expat who fell in love with the idea of saving some poor Vietnamese girl. You wanted to feel important. I let you. We both got something out of it. I loved you. You loved the version of me I showed you. You didn't love me. You didn't even know me. I couldn't speak, couldn't think. Just stood there on the sidewalk, phone pressed to my ear, feeling like an idiot, like the biggest, most pathetic fool who ever lived." "I'm sorry if I hurt you," she said, "but you were leaving anyway. This was always temporary. You knew that. I was thinking about staying, for you. I was thinking about building a life here." "Connor, don't. You'd have been miserable. You don't belong here. You were just running from something back home, and I was convenient." She wasn't wrong. That's what made it worse. She wasn't entirely wrong. I want my money back. She laughed. Actually laughed. Good luck with that. Then she hung up. I tried calling back. Blocked. Tried messaging on Facebook. Blocked. Instagram. An account I'd never known existed. Full of photos with her and the other guy going back over a year. All these happy couple shots with captions about forever and my person. I scrolled through them feeling sick. There were other guys too. Older photos, different Western men, similar captions. She'd done this before. Probably doing it with multiple guys at the same time. I wasn't special. I was just one in a rotation. I went back to my apartment and sat on the balcony and drank an entire bottle of whiskey and watched the city move below me like nothing had happened. Like the world hadn't just caved in. I thought about all the signs I'd ignored, all the warnings from guys who'd been here longer, who'd seen this pattern, who'd tried to tell me. I thought about how much money I'd sent, how many times I'd chosen to believe her over my own instincts, how badly I'd wanted to be the hero, to be needed, to matter to someone. I booked a flight home for 3 days later. Couldn't stay in that apartment, in that city, for another week. I messaged my boss, told him I was coming back, that the remote thing wasn't working. He said we'd figure it out. I didn't tell my parents what happened. Didn't tell Sarah. Didn't tell anyone the real reason I came home early. Just said Vietnam wasn't for me, that I'd gotten it out of my system, that I was ready to get back to real life. The flight back was worse than the flight over. I kept replaying every moment, every conversation, every time she'd cried and I'd sent money. Every time she'd said she loved me and I'd believed her because I needed so desperately to believe her. I'd given her over $15,000. Money I'd never see again. Money I'd handed over because it made me feel valuable. Because for a few months, I got to feel like someone's hero instead of someone's failure. Calgary in June felt exactly like I'd left it. Cold. Gray. Empty. I moved back into my condo, the one I'd been renting out while I was gone. Same furniture, same walls, same life I'd run away from. Except now I had less money and a story I was too humiliated to tell. I see the guys sometimes, posting in the Facebook groups I'm still in for some reason. Still in Hanoi. Still talking about how great it is. Still posting photos with beautiful local girls who definitely aren't using them. And I wonder how many of them are where I was. How many are ignoring the signs? How many think they're different, special, the exception? I don't blame Lynn, not really. She was surviving in a system that puts Vietnamese women and Western men in this fucked up power dynamic where everyone's using everyone and calling it love. She saw an opportunity and took it. I can't even be mad about that. I'm mad at myself for being so lonely, so desperate to feel important, that I ignored every red flag. For confusing attention with affection. for thinking that being needed was the same as being loved. Dave was right. I wasn't special. I was just another foreign guy with money and a broken heart, looking for someone to make me feel whole. And she was just a woman doing what she needed to do to get by in a country where foreign men show up every day looking for the exact fantasy I fell for. I've been back for 2 months now, started seeing a therapist. She's helping me understand why I ran, what I was really looking for, why I was so easy to manipulate. Turns out, when you're running from yourself, you'll believe anything someone tells you as long as it makes you feel less alone. I'm not dating. Can't even think about it. Every time I see a woman's profile on an app, I wonder what she wants from me, what I'm supposed to be for her. If anything about it would be real or just another transaction dressed up as connection. The money's gone, the fantasy's gone. What I'm left with is the same thing I had before I left myself. Turns out you can't run far enough to escape that. You can fly to the other side of the world, fall in love with someone who doesn't exist, burn through your savings trying to be someone's hero, and you still end up right back where you started. Alone. But at least now I know why. I don't tell people to avoid Vietnam, or Thailand, or the Philippines, or wherever guys like me go looking for what we think we've lost. I just tell them this. If you're going somewhere to escape who you are, you're not going to find what you're looking for. You're just going to find a more expensive way to stay lost. And someone, somewhere, will be happy to help you pay for that lesson. I paid $15,000 for mine. Turns out the price of feeling important is exactly as much as someone thinks you're willing to lose.